Here were some of the projections for Ole Miss last season. You see, they were 8-4. Our projection had them at 8-4. I picked them to go 8-4. The FBI had them right around 8-4. The over/under 7.5, so 7-5, 8-4. Really, this team did what everyone expected them to do last year. They were right there with the projections. You know, they did go over the over/under there from Vegas, so you know that I guess they beat those expectations a little bit. But really, with 7.5, it was either 7-5 or 8-4. So 8-4 the projection. 8-4 is what they were last season. Let's see what the projection looks like for 2023. It's a tricky schedule. Again, here is that schedule. This is the scale that we'll be using. Games that are under 20%, over 80%, those are games where I think the spread will be 20 or more. 20-29, 71-80, games where I think the spread will be double digits, 10-19. 30-39, 61-70, those are games where I think the spread will be around a touchdown, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And then you got your 50-50 games. Those will stay in the white. Those are games where I think the spread will be 5 points or less. Let's just put it that way. So really, those are the games that could go either way. And we do go really conservative with this. You know, it's very early. We don't know for sure how good all these teams are going to be. But this does just kind of give you a projection based off of how tough the schedule is. So we'll start with the easy wins. You've got Mercer, ULM. Those are games where Ole Miss should be favored by more than 20 points. Really no doubt about either one of those games. They should roll. And again, those games should not be close at all. Then you go to the games in the blue. And again, these are games where I think the spread will be double digits. I think Georgia Tech, that's one where Ole Miss will probably be favored by a couple of touchdowns. Georgia Tech did finish pretty well last year. You know, finished strong late in the season. But the game is at Ole Miss. They won easily last year. This is an Ole Miss team that could potentially be better this year with some transfers they brought in. Yeah, I think Ole Miss will be favored by double digits. And there may be some other games here. You know, maybe Vanderbilt, they wind up favored by 14 in that game. Again, we don't know how good Vanderbilt's going to be. It's so hard to say this early. You just kind of have to look at how the teams were last year. And then look at what they have coming back. But I think Vanderbilt probably goes in the purple here. Again, very close to putting them in the blue. But you just look at the way they finished last season. They were able to get a couple of big SEC wins. This is, I don't know if you'd call it a rivalry. It is the cross-division matchup they play every year. So this one has been close in the past. We've seen that. But yeah, it's home game for Ole Miss. You like to say that they probably take care of business here and win this one easily, but I don't think you can just automatically put this one in the blue. You know, it could be where the spread's 8 or 9 points. Again, very, very tough call there. I'll tell you what, though, if we put it in the blue, it does not change the projection, so keep that in mind. They would still have the same projected record regardless of where you put this game. So, yeah, I'm going to say that we'll put it in the purple for now just because of the way Vanderbilt finished last season. Some, you know, Ole Miss, maybe some question marks on defense. Maybe that spread is 8 or 9 points. And then you've got the games where they'll be underdogs. I think you've got Alabama and Georgia. They will be double-digit underdogs in both of these games. It's not just Alabama and Georgia, but it's also the fact that they play them on the road. That makes that very tough. So I think they're going to be, you know, probably about a 13, 14-point underdog against Alabama. Maybe 16, 17 points against Georgia. Clearly double-digit underdogs, I think, in both of those games. And I think they'll also be a clear underdog against LSU. LSU figures to be a top 5, at least top 10 team this year. It is at Ole Miss, so that makes that one in the yellow instead of the orange for me. But I still think that LSU will be a clear favorite. They'll be favored by 8 or 9 points in that one. And then you look at the rest of the schedule here. Tulane, you know, they're a preseason top 25 team. More than likely, that game is on the road. You look at Arkansas, who beat them last year. You look at Auburn on the road, tough place to play. Hugh Freeze may have them playing much better this year. We'll see. Texas A&M, a very talented team. The Egg Bowl is always close. So I think all 6 of these games, or all 5 of these games, I should say, all of them are 50-50 games. These are all games that could go either way. You know, if I had to say, I think Ole Miss might be a slight favorite in maybe all of these games. I think they will be against Tulane, Arkansas at home, Auburn. It depends on how good Auburn is. Texas A&M is at home, so they'll probably be a slight favorite there. Mississippi State, if they turn out to be pretty good, they'll almost probably be an underdog in that one because it's on the road. But again, I think the spreads for all these games will be very low, 3, 4, 5 points, unless one of these teams turns out to be a lot better or a lot worse than we expect. And so, yeah, you just kind of group them all together and say that these are 50-50 games that could go either way. So when you do this, you break it all down, you get the projected record here. We count Georgia Tech, Mercer, ULM, count those as wins. Alabama and Georgia counted as losses. LSU, we use 35% for that game, 65% for Vanderbilt. Everything else is in the white, so we use 50%. You could really just put LSU and Vandy both in the white as well, because everything, it would average out to where all these games are 50-50 games. And when you do that, you get a projection of 7-5. 7-5 is the projection. It was actually right at 6.5 wins, so we rounded it up to 7-5. But yeah, because of this schedule, because of Tulane in the non-conference, because of Georgia out of the East, this is a very tough schedule, and the projection would actually say that Ole Miss is more likely to go 6-6 than 8-4. Not that Ole Miss is projected to be any worse than they were last year. It's just because of this schedule. This is a very tough schedule. Again, Tulane and Georgia Tech in the non-conference, then you have to play Georgia out of the East. Makes for a tough schedule. I guess the good news is that at least you get Vandy out of the East. That's your other game. You don't have to play Georgia and Tennessee or something like that. But again, averaging all the numbers out, Ole Miss 7-5. That's the projection for 2023.